Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. Happy 2023. I can't believe it's 2023. I think I posted my first YouTube video in 2013, if not like the end of 2012. It's just crazy to me that it's literally been 10 years. I mean, I wasn't doing it consistently then. I posted a few videos and stopped and started back up like I think a year later. But I honestly wasn't doing it as a job until 2015. I don't know, the fact that I started like literally putting myself out there online 10 years ago is just wild to me. I feel like time has flown by, but it's also been the most exciting, surreal experience of my entire life. It's basically my entire 20s were online, which is so fun to look back on. I documented so much of my life. And so I thought for today's video, I just wanted to sit down and talk. I actually saw JC and Kristen Johns do a video like this for like their first video back of the year. It was just like in their car, it was super cozy. And I was like, I love that. I want to do that. I'd planned to kind of sit down and do a chit chat video anyway. So when I watched that, I was like, that is just so my vibe right now. And I don't know, I just feel like there's a lot of things I want to talk about. There's a lot of things I want to kind of just go back and go over. This past year has been really tough for me, and I wasn't fully transparent with a lot of things because I don't know, I was like somewhat protecting my peace, but it was kind of obvious that I was struggling. And I don't know, I just feel like I want to enter this year being positive, putting everything out into the universe and making it all such a fun and amazing experience for myself, for my family, for my friends, and for you guys that stick around and continue to support me, because it really means a lot. So I struggled a lot with my mental health in 2022, really bad, probably like the worst it's been in years. Like I've always struggled with some form of anxiety or just feeling like having a lot of imposter syndrome and not much confidence in myself and body image issues. But this past year was like on a whole other level for so many different reasons. And that does lead me into today's sponsor, which I'm so grateful for, BetterHelp, because they literally have been helping me this past year, not only with sponsored videos and getting to work with them, but actually utilizing the website for myself to speak to a therapist. So if you have been thinking about therapy, if you've been like talking to yourself, like, you know, I think I want to start this year off on a positive track, I think I want to actually like get a therapist and start talking about issues that have been going on in my life, I highly encourage you to check out BetterHelp because it is 100% virtual. It's really hard to find a therapist, especially where I live, like in the area and stuff. There's so many that are booked up, or it's just like ever since COVID, it's been really tough. So I know for myself, I really utilized the website, and it's super simple to use. All you have to do is go onto the website and you fill out like a little survey questionnaire thing where you basically just like answer some questions of what you want. Literally, someone is parking their car into this house. It's super easy. All you have to do is go onto the website and you fill out a quick survey / questionnaire of like basically what you want out of therapy, and they're able to help you match with someone that kind of goes based off of your preferences. So for example, when I started, it was for postpartum, and then this past year it was for, I'll get into it, a whole other situation. But I think that it is just so helpful to be able to do something from the comfort of your own home. You could do it on your own time. You can message your therapist when you get matched with them. It's not a self-help line. It's literally, you're matched with a licensed therapist like you would be if you were to go to any therapist office in your area, except this is online. There are over 25,000 licensed therapists on that website, so there's a wide range of people that can help with so many different things. So if you want to check it out for yourselves, you can go to betterhelp.com. That's betterhelp.com /Centomo, which is my last name, CENTOMO. You get 10% off your first month. 2023 is going to be the year that we're going to put our mental health first, at least for myself. That's like my main goal. There's two really big things that I want to focus on this year, and I mentioned it briefly in the podcast, but anyways, highly encourage you to check it out. I'll have the link listed down below in the description, betterhelp.com /Centomo for 10% off your first month. So the two main things that I really want to work on this year which I mentioned briefly in my podcast, and I want to touch on that a little bit more before I go into detail about other things, is my fear of vomit. So I have emetophobia, and this is something I've had since I was a child. My sister suffers from it as well, and we kind of have different forms of it, which is kind of interesting. I'm so scared for the day that gastro comes into our home. Like, I genuinely, I'm getting anxiety right now thinking about it. That's how scared I am of this stupid thing, and it's so debilitating. Like, people don't understand this phobia and how hard it is. Oh gosh, it just, like, it ruins my life. It controls so much of my everyday choices, because I'm paranoid. Like, if I am going to somebody's house and I hear that their kid was sick or isn't feeling well, or they're like, my tummy hurts, it's like instant anxiety, and my stomach tightens, everything just, it's like fight or flight. And I do not like that about this at all, because that should not be happening. So I definitely want to get started with therapy for that. Although it's funny because I spoke about wanting to do exposure therapy, because I've heard that's like a really good way to deal with it. And actually someone messaged me that was like, oh my God, exposure therapy made it worse for me. And I was like, oh. It's my biggest fear. So that's going to be a goal of mine to deal with for 2023, along with flying somewhere by myself. I have not ever gone onto an airplane by myself. I'm in my early 30s and I've never flown alone, and I've flown a lot throughout my life. So it kind of goes hand in hand with the whole emetophobia thing, because I don't like the feeling of not having any control. And then I also don't like how turbulence makes me nauseous, which then makes me feel like I'm going to throw up. And I'm also scared if someone next to me is going to throw up and we're stuck on the plane. Like, if there's just a whole big thing. And yes, I also am scared in turbulence, because I'm scared of like flying itself and like that we're going to crash or something. I know it sounds kind of ridiculous to someone who's not scared, but it is very hard. So those are like the two main things I want to focus on in therapy this year personally. And I also mentioned on the podcast and got a few messages about this, just asking why, but I had said that Dan and I want to go back to couples therapy. We technically graduated. I know that's not a thing, but we discussed with our therapist last year, because every session we would go to, she was kind of like, we're kind of talking about the same things here. I feel like you guys, we've been in therapy for 5 years and we kind of know how to communicate with each other, and the cycles that we go through when we're arguing and how to kind of get out of those things. And so she was like, do you want to continue? Because I can, but I also think you guys are good to go off on your own if you want to take a break. Like, she was kind of giving us the option, and Dan really was like, I think we're good to go on a break. I was more on the side of like, I don't want to leave because I love her so much, but I knew deep down I was like, we're good. And so things were really good for a long time, and then we started dealing with something, which I'll get to in a second. It's getting really bright. I feel like the sun is at the worst angle right now. Maybe I'll change locations. Hold on. Okay, hopefully the lighting is a little bit better now. I'm just going to talk about it right now because I feel like I'm just dragging it out because I don't know why. Dan and I spoke about in one of our videos months ago how we wanted to start trying for a second baby, but realistically we had actually been somewhat trying. Like, I don't want to say it was like we were trying for a baby, but we had stopped being careful. So essentially, when I got pregnant with Arkham, my first baby, we were not trying at all. Like, I was not on birth control for years, but I didn't have an IUD or anything, so we would just use condoms. And I don't remember if it was like, because I'm pretty sure it happened when we were all with our friends on a trip in the Hamptons. Like, it didn't happen with our friends, but we were all on a trip with our friends, and I'm pretty sure it was like one of the nights that we got really drunk. We either forgot a condom or it broke, or I mean, something might have happened, or it just didn't work, because it's not 100% guaranteed that a condom is going to prevent pregnancy. But yeah, it was a complete shock to us, because I mean, I had just finished my period, so I was not thinking that, like, I mean, first of all, I didn't even know anything about cycles or ovulation. I didn't know anything about that, but I was like, I just finished my period. I know it can live inside of you for up to 7 days, but I don't know. I just like wasn't thinking. And so I didn't even know that I was really late on my period. I just was super hormonal and really emotional, and my boobs were really hurting. So I was like, I'm just going to take a test. And it was like 1 a.m. If you've been following me since then, I'm sure you would remember that video when I found out I was pregnant. I was shocked, and Dan was shocked, because although we had just gone back from our honeymoon and people had been commenting like, you look pregnant, I was not pregnant in those photos. And I was like, great, thanks guys. But it was almost like it was manifested into the universe for me to get pregnant, because I literally got pregnant later on that month. And so it was a complete shock for Dan and myself. We were super excited. We were like, you know, we had talked about wanting to start trying after our friend's wedding, it was in September that year, and we were both in the wedding party, and it was a destination wedding for us. Like, we had to travel to go there, so I just didn't want to be pregnant for that wedding. And of course, I was like 6 or 7 weeks pregnant for the wedding, or 8, something like that. So I just was, I don't know, I didn't have any morning sickness or anything like that. Thankfully, everything was fine, and I felt fine, but they all knew I was pregnant. And anyways, it was all good, and I had the best pregnancy ever. I felt so good, and I found out when I was 12 weeks pregnant, when I went in for my ultrasound, that I had a like heart-shaped uterus. She could see in the ultrasound, and I was like, oh, that's so interesting. My mom had that too, but my mom had it really intense, where like, I think she had a septate, or it's called something, where basically the septum went all the way down through her cervix, all the way into the canal. Sorry, mom, hopefully you're not upset by me saying that, and she was able to have kids and stuff, so I was like, okay, well, no problem, whatever, it's fine. And so then when I delivered and I had a cesarean, I had to switch OBs last minute. And so she kind of wasn't fully aware what was going on. She got Archie out, and she was like, your right side of your uterus is literally like shriveled up. It doesn't exist. So I would highly recommend you going to get an ultrasound. It didn't even look like you had a kidney. Like, she was very confused, and I was like, what? So I got an ultrasound everywhere like a few weeks later, and everything was normal. They were like, no, you just have a bicornuate uterus, or it's either a septate. We can't fully tell by like an intravaginal ultrasound. You'd have to get like some kind of MRI or something, or a whatever. I forget the name of that thing where they inject the fluid inside of you to see exactly the shape. And I was like, well, I'm not concerned. So like, I just had a baby, like, it's fine. I don't even have to think about it. And every single doctor that I spoke to said it doesn't impact getting pregnant. It just means you're higher risk of miscarriage. So I never was like concerned or thought that like I would ever deal with any form of like infertility or hard to get pregnant, because it was so easy for me to get pregnant in the past. And Arkham like actually wasn't my only pregnancy. I just want to stress that I really don't want to talk about this online. Like, I'm not ready to talk about it, but he was not my only pregnancy. So I knew it was very easy for me to get pregnant. So then Dan and I were kind of like, well, when we're ready to start trying, like, it's probably going to happen right away, because it's been so easy for me to get pregnant in the past. It's more just like keeping the pregnancy, which I was kind of like, you know, I was on bed rest for the first trimester with Arkham. Even though I traveled, it was like, I was given the okay, and we didn't even know that I had that issue yet, right? So I was on bed rest as soon as we found out about the issue for a little bit, until things were cleared. But I was like, okay, like, that's the one thing that I'm going to be a bit nervous about in the future. But I didn't like really think much about it. I was focusing on my baby, focusing on all of that stuff. And then last year we kind of started talking. I don't know, Archie was like, had just turned 1, and we were like, I don't know, maybe we'll start trying soon. But like, I knew I wasn't fully ready right then. I was like, maybe the fall we can start, like, you know, seeing what happens. And so that's kind of what I wanted to do, because I knew my anxiety would like hinder my, like, I don't know, I just didn't want to ruin the experience. I was like, I love the fact that I got pregnant. Like, the times that I got pregnant in the past, like, I just didn't know I was pregnant. It wasn't something that I like ever tried for. So now that I was like, you know what, I'm ready to give birth again. Let's start blah, 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 whatever. Hold on. My phone is going crazy right now. What is going on? Okay, it's literally just my team talking about the weather in LA right now, because it's crazy raining, and they just said that they got snow, which is unreal. I remember the first month that we like weren't careful. Like, we literally just did not use protection that whole month. And I never tracked like, I had always known when I was gonna get my period, because I'm very consistent. I'm like day 28 to day 30, like every single month. It's one of those days. Usually 28 is like the one I'm always at. So I know exactly when I'm gonna get my period. I actually feel myself when I ovulate. I found out later on what that feeling was. I just never knew throughout my life. Ever since I stopped birth control, I was like, how come like a week after I get my period, I always get this like pain, you know? Like, I just don't know what that is. But some women can actually feel themselves ovulating. It's very common. I've talked to multiple doctors about this. So yeah, I'm just one of those people that I feel myself ovulating. So I always know. And basically, okay, sorry, my camera died. When it didn't happen that first month, I was like, oh, that's weird. Okay. But then, I don't know, I like kind of panicked, which is like so absurd, because I know so many women that get pregnant and they like literally like, it took me 6 months, it took me 8 months. And I'm like, okay, it's normal. I don't know, I just like was so convinced that I was gonna get pregnant the first time we like weren't careful, because it was just so easy for me. It didn't happen. And then I was like, okay, well, whatever, it's like the first month. And then just kept not happening. And I think on like month 4, I went to see my doctor, because I had that previous month used ovulation strips just to make sure that I was ovulating, and I got the peak, and like everything was so exactly timed. And I'm like, okay. I just also didn't want it to be so medical, because I was like just trying to have fun with it, and like, no worries. I'm like, I'm actually starting to try like earlier than I even wanted to have my kids, like the age gap or whatever. So if it takes a bit of time, it's fine. Like I always kind of imagine like 2.5 to 3 years apart. That was like in my head what I always wanted. So I'm like, I have so much time. We started even before they would be 2.5 years apart. So I was like, it's great. And then it just kept not happening. And then I was like, you know what? I'm just going to go in to check up on everything to make sure everything's okay, because I don't know, maybe something is going on. And I spoke to my GP, and he was like, yeah, I'll get you an ultrasound. We'll do intravaginal. We'll see what's up. I don't think you need to do like the MRI thing. Like, I think it's fine. And I'm like, okay. So they looked, they're like, everything's good. Anyways, I'm getting really sidetracked. I think I'm going to make an entire video about this whole story and situation that I went through, because there's a lot of details. There's a lot of things I went to go through, a lot of testing, a lot of information, a lot of doctors, a lot of fertility doctors. But essentially, we were diagnosed after a year of trying. We were diagnosed with unexplained infertility, second child unexplained infertility. Also, because I had a kid and I've been pregnant more than once in my life. Like I totally brought that kid all the way to past due date. I was 41 plus 1 and had to get induced, and even at that ended in cesarean because my body like just was not ready to deliver. And they said, you know, with a septate uterus, because that's what I found out I had, was that they're like, usually you go to 38 weeks, but I don't know, I've spoken to so many women now that have had what I had, and my mom had it even more intense, and she had 2 kids. So every single doctor I've spoken to, and I've spoken to so many, said that it doesn't impact you getting pregnant. So I have a lot more follicles on one ovary than the other. And anyways, we did some fertility treatments, and it was probably like the hardest year of my life to go through that, because honestly, every single month that I would like try, you know what, I'm gonna say it, I would try to get pregnant, and I would put it in the universe, and I was like, please, please, please. And then I would get like the pregnancy symptoms, but those were like, they're mixed with PMS symptoms. So it just all kind of intertwines. And I was just so upset when I would get my period. Like I started testing at the first few months. I would like take a pregnancy test, like all excited, and I would film it, and I would be like, oh, negative. I'm like, oh, okay. I stopped testing because honestly it was making me so upset. I would just like wait for my period, and then I would get it, and I'd be like, I would text my friend or Dan. I'd be like, just got my period, like wonderful. And then I went away to France, and I met a girl there named Maude. And like, this is not for me to talk about her story, but she went through infertility. And so her and I really connected on that trip, because I opened up to her saying that I had been trying and it was really hard. It's also hard because people don't take you as seriously when you have a kid already, because they're like, well, you have a kid, so you should be grateful. And this is one of the things as to why I was so hesitant to talk about this online, because it is such a personal thing that I'm still currently going through. And I know so many women that struggle with this, and I've connected with so many women, but the main thing that I just didn't want to hear was like, you know, you have a kid, so really, like, there's no need for more kids, like, blah, 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 why don't you adopt? Like, I've heard it all already in, like, my personal life, so I just know it's gonna be expanded even more online. But at the same time, I told myself that in 2023, I was not gonna let people's opinions, comments, negativity, anything like that affect me, because at the end of the day, your perception of me is your reality. It does not mean that's my reality. So my reality in my life and what I'm doing and my decisions is because I'm making that decision for my life. And I just need to be strong in the fact that, like, I know what I want to do. I know that my feelings are valid. And going through infertility, whether it's with your first kid, your second kid, your third kid, it is hard no matter what, especially because it is something that you like basically have no control over, and it's just really hard. So it's crazy because like all our bloods were normal. I have a high fertility count, right? Like my AMH, like everything is like above normal. Dan too, it's above normal. And then we would always hear, just stop trying, just go on vacation. The more you stress, the more that it's gonna, and I was just like, you know what? We have literally tried all of that. We have tried not trying. We've tried not stressing. I literally was like, forget about it 1 month. I'm like, we're not even gonna try. We're just gonna live our lives. We did go on vacation 1 month, and like literally we've tried everything, and it's just really invalidating when people say that, because it's like you don't know the situation that the person's in, and I just find it extremely rude. And like I've even had people in my personal life tell me that, or like, you know, you should just be grateful that you have one kid, or like, why don't you just adopt? And I'm like, it is just so invalidating. So all that to say, that was really hard for me to go through like alone this past year, and I was waiting to talk about it when I do get pregnant, because I know I will get pregnant. Like I know it's gonna happen for me, but I'm like, you know what? I would rather just open up about it now while I'm still in the thick of it and just talk about it, because I'm feeling so much better about it now. And, you know, listening to especially JC talk about it from her experience, and I'm like, that just gave me so much peace hearing it through her words, the fellow redhead queen. And so I just really was like, you know what? I took that away from her video, and she has no idea that like I watched her video and that I took that away from it. So if I can be that person for someone else that watches my channel or that follows me, like I want to be that person, because her video helped me more than she could ever know. I actually found her because of you guys, because when my sister and I started our podcast and I dyed my hair red, a lot of you were like, oh my God, like this reminds me so much of JC Marie Smith. And so then I was like, oh cool. So I followed her because of that. And actually like, I'm so happy I did, because she's like kind of going through something similar that I'm going through. So it was like, I don't know. It was almost like the stars aligned, you know? Anyways, that being said, that was really hard for me this past year. And I'm not going to get into like the details of like the treatments that we got or anything like that. I'm not looking for opinions or suggestions. I'm just opening up and being vulnerable. And, you know, one day we will have our rainbow baby, and I know that it is going to be the most amazing experience ever. And I don't know. It's just like, I'm just feeling so hopeful about this year. I'm putting it into the universe. I'm ready for it. And I'm like, it's going to be good. I'm telling myself it's going to be good. So that's the update on baby number 2. And I'll keep you guys posted kind of like along the journey of like what's going on. I probably will make a full entire video dedicated to like the process that we went through and like everything that we did, because I feel like that needs a video on its own. That's the main thing that I wanted to focus on for 2023, was like all mental health. And like I was so depressed last year. Like it was so hard for me to just find any motivation in anything. I was so sad, and I feel like I was grasping at straws, and I've kind of just come to accept now that like that's my reality, and that's just the cards that were dealt for me, and letting go of control is really hard for me. So I have fully let go of that, and I'm just kind of trusting the process and trusting my body and trusting the universe that it's all going to happen in time. I know it will. And if anyone is struggling out there with infertility, whatever it may be, I am sending so much positivity to you through this camera right now, through the lens. I'm sending all the baby dust, positive vibes. It's going to happen eventually. You are a mother, no matter what. Internally, you are a mother. You are the best mother, and I am so proud of you for everything that you've gone through. This is the hardest fucking thing I have ever done in my life. Like through pregnancy, childbirth, postpartum, loss, like literally everything. Like this has been the most challenging thing on me mentally, physically, emotionally, and I am just so proud of you for going through it. And yeah, let's make this year the best year yet. So on to the next topic I want to talk about, and that is my 2023 goals for business this year. So I was really lost last year, obviously. I was also lost in my content. I was like, I don't even know what I want to film. Like everything was changing, and I was also just going through it. So I just didn't have the mental capacity to like focus on my work and be passionate about it, because I just did not have space for it emotionally, mentally, like creatively, nothing. And I just pushed until I felt basically experienced burnout. And so I took a break. I'm feeling refreshed, but I'm also really taking a step back with certain things. Like I'm not pushing it with social media. If I don't feel like I want to do it, I'm not going to do it. If I don't want to post on stories or on Instagram that day, I'm not going to do it. I'm focusing on my podcast. I'm focusing on YouTube. I'm focusing actually on TikTok because I love TikTok and it's so much fun. Instagram is like up and down for me. I sometimes love it. I sometimes get really frustrated with it. And I just kind of want to have a more positive outlook with that app. So I'm taking it day by day. And then also working on my brand. So I haven't really like spoken about this much, but I am starting a brand. It's something that has been literally in the works for, I'm not even joking, 4 years. It has gone back and forth with different ideas. We have signed with investors, we have signed with people to start it, then had to back out due to COVID, then had to back out due to like other issues with, there's just been a lot of stuff going on, but 4 years in the works. And I'm really hoping that this is the year. Actually, no, I'm not hoping. It's going to be the year. It's going to be the year. And I'm so excited about it because I know you guys are going to love it. And I know you guys are going to be so excited about this as well. And so I am just hoping that it's going to be my, my positive year after a really, really hard one. And I'm just going in with that mindset. So let's all do it. I also started working out again. I had to stop for a few months to kind of figure out like health issues that were all going on and see what was going on. And I did have a surgery for something. So like it was just a lot. So now I'm back to working out and I feel so good. I'm like, I'm seeing more of like a health, I don't know how to explain it, okay, so basically when I gave birth, I saw myself in like the most beautiful way. I was like, I want to worship my body to see what it's gone through. I'm freaking in love with my body. I have so much respect for my body. I can't even tell you the love I felt for myself. Then I couldn't get pregnant and I went from loving myself to literally being so mad at my body. Like, why is this not happening for me? I was angry at myself. I did not understand why. And so my relationship with myself was so up and down and so bipolar basically that I just was like, I am not going into this year feeling that way about myself. I'm not going back in time. I want to love myself again the way that I did. And that doesn't mean that I'm not allowed to do what I want to do in order to feel confident in myself. So like if I want to get a breast lift, if I want to get a breast reduction, if I want to get Botox, if I want to do things that make me happy, I should be allowed to do so. And at the end of the day, that's all I think. And that's just my opinion. And it's my life. And I don't know. I feel like there's so many opinions on things nowadays, and especially if you're promoting self-love or body positivity, it's like, well, you can't be promoting body positivity if you do this. And I'm like, I think there's room for everyone out there. I think there's room for everyone to feel confident in themselves no matter what. Like, if there's a girl who's had a boob job, is she never allowed to love herself and love her body and promote loving her body? Like, that's just the way I see it. So although everyone is entitled to their own opinion and like whatever that may be, and that's fine, but for myself and for my life, that's kind of how I see it. And who knows, maybe I'm just gonna like freaking hate it and then like not be okay with getting a breast lift. Like, I don't know, but I'm not gonna look at any of that kind of stuff until I'm done having kids. So that is my focus for 2023. I hope you enjoyed this video. I'm on my journey to self-love again, self-acceptance, giving myself grace, allowing the universe to give me what I know that I deserve, because I am a lucky girl. I am a lucky, lucky, lucky girl, and I deserve everything, right? That's the mantra of 2023. We deserve the energy that we put out, so let's make it positive and let's make this year positive. And I hope you got something from this video that helped you feel better in any way. That's literally all I want with my content, is to help someone feel better. I want you to take away something from this, and I love you, and I will see you all in my next video. Bye!